Hello everyone, I'm Sara, a daughter of Iran, and I welcome you to another little anecdote. This time it's a very famous one from Golestan, the flower garden, by Saady Shirazi, an Iranian poet and writer from the 13th century, who traveled a lot, observed many people, and has a lot to teach us in his most beautiful prose and poetry. This story, however, is a little weird because I didn't expect it to end like this, and I really don't agree with this message that he's trying to give us, but these classical poets, especially Sadi, express their sexist, racist, fascist, or whatever-ist statements so beautifully that I believe there's always something in it for all of us, something to learn, something to enjoy, even if we don't agree with the overall message. So this story begins at a desolate, rugged mountain range where a notorious gang of Arab bandits had set up their hideout. From this vantage view, they controlled every pass and every caravan route, bringing terror to the villagers and defeating even the Sultan's army time and again. So the rulers of the land got worried, fearing that if this gang was allowed to continue whatever they were doing, their power would become impossible to challenge. So they had to do something about it. This is where Sadi says, درختی که اکنون گرفته است پای به نیروی شخصی برآید ز جای. A tree that's newly laid in place, by one man's strength it can be displaced. وگر همچنان روزگاری هلی به گردونش از بیخ برنگسلی. If for a long time you let it be, it will not move by heaven's decree. So the king's advisors agreed. They sent a group of spies, to gather intelligence and wait for the perfect opportunity. Their moment came when the bandits, having just returned from a long journey of plunder, were exhausted, with their armor taken off, and they were sleeping in their own little cave. The first enemy who defeated them was sleep. As more of the night passed, قرص خورشید در سیاهی شد یونس اندر دهان ماهی شد. The sun's golden disk dived into the black. Jonah lay hidden in the whale's sack. The cops who were hiding in the mountain burst from their ambush. They silently tied the hands of the sleeping bandits and brought them all to the king's court. The next morning, the king, without a moment of hesitation, ordered every single one of them to be killed. But then one of the wise old ministers saw a young man among all these prisoners. The spring of youth had just begun to bloom, and the green of his face was only just starting to show. So the minister kissed the king's throne and begged him, "Oh, my lord, this boy has not yet tasted life's fruit. I beg you, show the kindness that's your nature and spare his life. Grant a favor upon your servant and entrust him to me." The king was not moved by this speech. He frowned, for the minister's request went against his deeply held belief that پرتو نیکان نگیرد هر که بنیادش بد است. تربیت نااهل را چون گردکان بر گنبد است. Good cannot shine when not in its home, training the inept, putting nuts on a dome. It's better to end the lines of these corrupt men, the king declared. Putting out the fire but leaving an ember, or killing a viper but saving its young, it's not the work of wise men. ابر اگر آب زندگی بارد هرگز از شاخ بید بر نخوری. با فرومایه روزگار مبر کز نی بوریا شکر نخوری. If the clouds pour the water of life, the willow tree fruit you'll never eat. Don't spend your days with a friend in strife. You won't eat sugar from a mad reed. The minister heard the king's firm words and he actually kind of agreed. You can't inherently change someone's nature, but he cited a famous saying. Every baby is born with a pure nature. It's their parents who Judaize, Christianize, and Zoroastrianize them. After all, the child is still young and his pure nature hasn't been completely altered. با بدان یار گشت همسر لوط خاندان نبوتش گم شد. سگ اصحاب کهف روزی چند پی نیکان گرفت و مردم شد. Lot's wife who with the wicked allied, her prophet's noble line was denied. The seven sleepers' dog followed good people, lived like a faithful, and faithfully died. So everyone in the court kind of felt bad and started to feel compassion for this boy. They joined the plea. The king finally gave in. Fine, I spare his life, though I don't believe it's the wise thing to do. Then at this point we have a reference to the Epic of Kings or Shahnameh that you can see it right here. I've told you some stories of this book. The main hero, the main character of this book, the Shahnameh, is Rustam, whose dad is Zal. So the king quotes Zal in Shahnameh. It says, دانی که چه گفت زال با رستم گرد دشمن نتوان حقیر و بیچاره شمرد دیدیم بسی که آب سرچشمه خورد چون بیشتر آمد شتر و بار ببرد. Zal said to Rustam always this one thing: don't look at enemies like weak and low. One tiny river, when turned to a spring, carries a camel and its load in flow. He gave up anyway. The minister thanked him for this awesome piece of wisdom and took the boy away. He was raised with comfort and care, and the best teachers were hired for him. They taught him the art of conversation, the etiquette of the court, and all the noble manners of a true nobleman. He excelled at everything and anything. Everyone was impressed by his newfound grace. But still, every time the minister wanted to boast to the king about this boy, the king simply smiled and said, عاقبت گرگزاده گرگ شود. گرچه با آدمی بزرگ شود. A wolf cub grows to be a wolf, though raised and taught by human love. 2 years passed. The young man began to secretly connect with the neighborhood thugs. Then one night, him and his new gang broke into the minister's house, killed the minister and his 2 sons, took all of his immense wealth, and then returned to the bandits' hideout, taking his father's place as the new leader of the gang. The king was horrified. He saw the truth of his own words in the blood of his loyal minister. So once again, he reminded everyone, شمشیر نیک از آهن بد کی کند کسی ناکس به تربیت نشود ای حکیم کس باران که در لطافت طبعش خلاف نیست در باغ لاله روید و در شوره بوم خس. How can a good sword come from bad iron? A low person trained remains a low person. The rain whose kindness no one debates gives tulips to gardens, thorns to deserts. زمین شوره سنبل بر نیارد در او تخم و عمل ضایع مگردان نکویی با بدان کردن چنان است که بد کردن به جای نیک مردان. A salty land will never grow, so do not waste your seed or toil. To do good to the evil is woe, as doing harm to those loyal. And that, my friends, is the end of the story. I used to hear these lines all the time, these verses as a kid, because a lot of these lines from this story, which is one of the first stories of the book, are actually proverbs. Like, people use it in everyday life. And I always thought like it was out of context. I didn't know what it actually meant, but I never thought that Saady actually believed that people cannot change. But I do agree that reading a couple of books or joining the 5 a.m. club or drinking green smoothies every morning isn't gonna change someone's personality if they don't really want to change. Anyway, this was my take. Let me know what you think. I'm Sara, a daughter of Iran, and I'm so glad I got out of that depression phase and I'm back to making videos. I hope you like these videos. So see you next week.